BYD have revealed the models and the prices that are going to be available for the Seal, the new BYD Seal electric sedan, which is a direct competitor to the Tesla Model 3. Now, we've seen the price and the specifications in Thailand. We know the specifications in Australia, therefore we can infer the Australian price. Is it good value? Should you wait to get the new Tesla Model 3, or should you place an order for the BYD Seal? Well, I'm going to give you the answer to that question. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. Great to see you. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. And I definitely have an opinion on this one. It's going to be very interesting. But I want to know if you agree with me on what I'm about to say about the Seal versus the new Model 3. The Seal has just gone on sale in Thailand, and we've just received the actual specifications for the Australian models as well. But let's start with the Thailand news, because we know the BYD 803 is currently on sale in Thailand. It's currently on sale in Australia. So it kind of gives us an idea of what's going to happen. In Thailand, the Seal comes in 3 different trim levels. Those trim levels are exactly the same. They're identical to the Australian trim levels. There's the dynamic rear-wheel drive, the premium rear-wheel drive, and the performance all-wheel drive. Very, very similar as well to what Tesla has with the Model 3. Basically, the dynamic rear-wheel drive is the equivalent to the Tesla Model 3 standard range. The premium rear-wheel drive is very similar to the Tesla Model 3 long range. The only thing is the premium rear-wheel drive doesn't have the front motor. So that's the advantage of the Model 3 long range. And the performance all-wheel drive, well, that's basically the same as the Tesla Model 3 Performance. You can't buy a Model 3 Performance for the Highland version yet, but you will be able to soon. We've seen a new patent for a new motor for the new version of the Model 3. The cheapest version, what battery does it have? It's actually a pretty similar battery, almost identical, in fact, to the battery in the Tesla Model 3 Highland. It's a 61.4 kilowatt hour blade battery pack, lithium iron phosphate battery, of course. A single electric motor has 204 horsepower. So that's one slight disadvantage of the entry-level Seal. It has a fair bit less horsepower. It has around about 50 horsepower less than the Model 3. Price though, well, first of all, what's the range? It's 510 kilometers of range. The CLTC cycles, that's the Chinese cycle. Now, the WLTP range of the Seal is 450 kilometers. WLTP range of the Model 3 equivalent model is 513. So the Tesla Model 3 standard range has around 60 kilometers more range than the Seal in its cheapest variant. It also has a bit more power. What else do we know? Price is $36,200 US. That's 1.3 million baht, meaning it's a few $1,000s cheaper than the Model 3 Highland in its cheapest variant. So you're getting the car for a little bit less money, but of course you're getting less power and less range. So it's really a matter of which car do you prefer, for what reasons. Now, there's a few reasons that you might pick one over the other. The Seal is slightly bigger, has a bigger interior, but a much smaller boot space. So if you want the bigger boot space, Model 3. But the other thing to consider is, of course, the Model 3 Highland does have a much higher safety rating. Its ADAS systems are considered to work much better in safety tests. So there's pros and cons here with both cars. What about the second version? Well, the middle trim, the rear-wheel drive premium version, comes with a bigger battery pack. It's much bigger, in fact. It's a 20 kilowatt hours bigger. So it's an 82.5 kilowatt hour LFP battery pack. It has 650 kilometers of range on the CLTC cycle. On the actual WLTP cycle, though, it's around about 570 kilometers. So same deal here, about 50 kilometers less range than the Tesla Model 3 long range. So you're getting, actually, here is quite a big difference between the Model 3 long range, because the Model 3 long range has more than twice the power. It has around 380 kilowatt, whereas the BYD Seal has a 230 kilowatt rear motor. So that rear motor, 230 kilowatt, is plenty of power. You don't really need Tesla's 380 kilowatt of power. But if that matters to you, then yeah, all-wheel drive, the Model 3 long range gets all-wheel drive. So extra motor, more power, and about 50 kilometers more range. What about the pricing? Well, the price for the premium rear-wheel drive in the BYD Seal in Thailand is $41,000 US dollars. So it's a bit cheaper as well than the Model 3 long range. The third trim, the Performance all-wheel drive. Now, the Performance all-wheel drive is actually it's very similar to the Tesla Model 3 long range. That's probably the right car to compare it to. And the Tesla Model 3 long range actually costs a pretty similar price to this BYD Seal Performance version. It's $43,700 US dollars for the Seal. It's got also the same size battery pack. It's an 82.5 kilowatt hour pack, and it has about 520 kilometers of range on the WLTP cycle. The Tesla Model 3 Performance Highland, we haven't got a range figure yet, but it's likely to have around about 580, 590 kilometers of range. So once again, 50 to 60 kilometers more range for the Model 3 Performance. But of course, the long range, which this is directly comparable to, it has around 630 kilometers of range. So it's about 100 kilometers more range. Big difference here. If range is a consideration for you, you're going to get the Highland. It's not even a question. 100 kilometers more range is a pretty big difference. But of course, some people don't like Tesla, then they want something else. So the Seal is definitely a car worth looking at for that reason. So just to sum up here, guys, there's three variants. There's basically the standard range, the more powerful long range version of the BYD Seal, and then of course there's the performance version of the BYD Seal as well. The performance version, how much power does that actually have? Well, first of all, it's got an 82.5 kilowatt hour pack, same as the mid-range vehicle, and it does 0 to 100 in 3.8 seconds. The Tesla Model 3 does it in 3.4 seconds. The performance version, long range, does it in around 4.6 seconds, but you can pay a few $1,000s more to increase the performance, and you can get a car that'll do 0 to 100 in around 3.9 seconds. So the Tesla Model 3 long range with the performance boost for $3,000 Australian dollars gives you basically a very similar specified car to the BYD Seal, but it of course has 100 kilometers more range. So that's worth considering there. Now, once again, like I said, the interior of the Seal is definitely bigger than the Model 3 Highland, but the boot is quite a bit smaller. What about the charging speed? Okay, here's probably another big plus for both cars, in fact. But yeah, one of them has much better charging than the other. All models of the BYD Seal have 150 kilowatt charging at their quickest rates. So 150 kilowatt, the standard range Model 3 Highland has 170 kilowatt charging. Model 3 long range and Model 3 Performance will have around 250 kilowatt charging speed. So all three Tesla models do have faster charging than the Seal, but the Seal's charging speeds are actually pretty good. So it's definitely not going to be a problem at those charging speeds, but obviously it's quite a bit slower than something like a long range Tesla or even something like a Hyundai Ioniq 5. So what will be the pricing? Well, pricing is most likely to be around about 60,000 Australian dollars for the base version of the Seal, maybe $58,000. So you're looking around a 40,000 US dollar figure here. But what do you get as standard? Well, here's one advantage to the Seal. Okay, you get a 15.6 inch infotainment touchscreen. I personally have obviously only at 03. I thought the touchscreen was okay. I think Tesla's touchscreen is considerably better in terms of menu functionality and all that stuff. But the advantage to the Seal is it also comes with a digital screen right in front of the driver. It's a 10.25 inch digital display. And a lot of people, they do like that. They prefer that. Also, speaker system. Seal comes with a 12 speaker DIN audio stereo, power adjustable front seats. They're not ventilated like the Teslas. Wireless phone charging, that's a nice feature. Synthetic leather look upholstery, and a so-called full suite of advanced safety technology. In Thailand, the Seal has been a huge hit. In fact, the 03 sold like crazy. Thai people absolutely love it. The Seal as well is selling really, really well. In a single hour, as soon as it went on sale, there was 1,104 orders within 60 minutes in Thailand. That's amazing. BYD is starting to go all in on superchargers like Tesla. So they've just built the world's biggest charging station in China with Shell. And they're about to build, or in the process of building, 1,100 charging stations in Thailand by the end of 2023. And that's apparently part of BYD's success in Thailand is their charging network. Now, the Seal is actually much cheaper in Thailand and most likely to be much cheaper in Australia too than what it costs in Europe. In fact, in Europe, it's extremely expensive. The cheapest model you can get in Europe is 55,000 US dollars. That's about 80,000 Australian dollars for the cheapest model. That's the 80 kilowatt power pack version, but it's still quite expensive. And in Brazil, the price is 61,000 US dollars. So to give you an idea, the cheapest version of the Seal in China is 27,000 US dollars and 38,000 US dollars for the performance version. So basically, the Thai versions of the Seal are around 5,000 US dollars more expensive than what they cost in China, which seems like it's a pretty decent price, I think. But it will be very, very tough for BYD. Now, to give you an idea, really a quick summary here on the specifications, the standard range BYD Seal, 160 kilowatt rear motor, right? Not front wheel drive, rear wheel drive. Now, the next specification up has a 230 kilowatt rear wheel drive motor. The performance model has 390 kilowatts, that's about 530 horsepower, and it's all-wheel drive. It's got a motor at the back, a motor at the front. The cheapest version, 62.5 kilowatt hour blade battery. More expensive versions, the mid-range and the high spec, both have an 82.5 kilowatt hour blade battery. Should you get the Seal over the Tesla Model 3, I can't really see a business case to get the Seal. Now, the only reason I personally think that that would be a compelling option is, one, you like the styling. You prefer the styling of the Seal. The Seal is a pretty good looking car. And two, you don't like Tesla for whatever reason. You have a thing against Tesla. Now, a lot of people might say, yeah, but I want a digital screen in front of the driver. Now, to be honest, it's not really a good reason. The reason I say that is because you can easily get one of those. In fact, on AliExpress, I've seen, I think one seller has sold 7,000 of those heads-up displays for Tesla Model 3s. It takes about an hour to install them. They work really, really well. They connect to the actual main unit. And there's actually hundreds of installers around the world that'll put a digital screen in front of you if you want one. It doesn't cost very much. It's about $500. So I wouldn't really consider that a reason to not get the Model 3. But the reasons are, like I said, my opinion is Model 3 is a little bit more expensive. Probably about 5% is the estimate. But is it more expensive if the long-range version has similar performance characteristics? It's got similar power to the performance Seal, which is likely to be on par on price. Well, in my opinion, it's really the Tesla Model 3 Highland version, the upgraded version of the Model 3. I think it's a significantly better car than the Seal. Now, don't just take my word for it. Do your research, but keep in mind that journalists are saying the same thing as me. I'm probably being a bit of a parrot here and just saying what journalists are saying. But the Seal has received not just kind of lukewarm reviews. It's gotten some pretty bad reviews from some journalists. Some journalists have said it's good, but none of them have said that they would say it's a better car than the new version of the Model 3. But guys, of course, I probably sound like I'm a big Tesla fan here, but I'm trying to be as factual as possible. And right now, I can't really see a compelling reason to get the Seal versus the Model 3. I don't think the Seal is going to sell that well. It doesn't sell well in China. I don't think it's going to sell that well in Europe. It's way too expensive in Europe. I think BYD are going to have to reduce prices, bring it down to a price maybe closer to what they sell it for in China. Not the same price, but maybe like 10% more than what they sell it for in China. If they did that, then it would be extremely compelling. And I would say, hey, go and buy one. Until that happens, I think it's a bit too expensive. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Thank you for watching.